The second project I wanted to talk about is really using our pedestrian and bicycle data subscription from FDOT Central Office to look at the level of activity of pedestrians and bicyclists across different types of roadways. Before I get into the specific charts where we use StreetLight, I just wanted to include this to make sure everybody is at least a little bit familiar with our new context classification system. This is something that Kittleson helped FDOT Central Office implement a few years back. But it's really trying to categorize all the roads in FDOT system according to the land use surrounding it, ranging from the very rural C1, C2 settings to our most densely populated cities over in the C6. As you guys could all imagine, you probably would expect the level of ped and bike activity to go up as you go into the context classifications to the right. But that without StreetLight data, we wouldn't really be able to quantify that because it's just impossible to count peds and bicyclists along every road in Florida. So we ended up doing something like this, where we joined our context classification layer with the pedestrian and bicycle activity estimates from StreetLight, and we're able to normalize and create a chart showing how pedestrian and bicycle activity does indeed go up as you get to the more dense context classifications. It was interesting to see that the bicyclists don't really pick up until you get to urban center and urban core, while pedestrians just have a gentler slope with a little bit of uptick here for the rural town setting. Those are just like your small town main streets. Of course, part of our job is to communicate this data in a manner that makes sense to the general public. So we end up creating something, a graphic like you see here on the right, just basically telling people this is based on actual data along classified roadways. This is generally the level of pedestrian and bicyclist activity that you can expect, with C6 having the most peds, and then coming down from there with a little bit of a bump for the C2T rural town. And it's not just only for guidance and communication. We actually have started using StreetLight data to inform some of our systemic safety analysis. And this is where, instead of looking for a handful of high crash locations, we actually try to identify types of roads that are at most risk for crashes, and then can deploy systemic countermeasures for it. So for a long time, the puzzle pieces that we had were really the crash data, the context of the roadway, context classification is a great example of that, and roadway characteristics, which FDOT does a really great job at keeping. Those are number of lanes, posted speed limit, and such. But we never really had access to a measure of how many people are actually walking or biking out there. And as you can imagine, the more people are out there, the more exposure to crash, right? So with StreetLight and having that statewide access, we were able to at least get a simplified version of pedestrian and bicyclist activity level, which is what you see here on the right. If you're from Florida, you probably recognize this as the Miami-Dade region. And we end up bucketing all the roadways according to whether they are in the bottom quintile, second quintile, and so on of the StreetLight pedestrian index. And having that puzzle piece back into our puzzle has really enabled us to get a lot more refined in the types of roadways and the context that we're targeting for systemic improvements. Becca, any questions on the FDOT?
Yeah, the one question was about your context class to the bike ped data.
Yeah.
What was your y-axis as part of that?
Yes, good question. So the numbers behind this are the pedestrian and bicyclist StreetLight index, which there's no scale to them really. I think they're just kind of like a made up number that just grows and grows. So obviously that's not something that makes sense to show in a chart, so that our step to normalize it was to have everything be a % of the maximum either bicyclist or pedestrian index. So that's why you see 100 here in C6, and then this means C5 was roughly, I don't know, 65, 70% of what C6 had, and same for bicyclists.
Okay.
Good question.
So I think we have another question from the previous discussion about Metroclan Orlando.
Yeah.
Your numbers on the car trips by distance look a little odd. Are you sure that more than half of the trips are less than 5 miles?
Yes, so it is a surprising finding, but we have cross-checked that against other national data sets, both survey-based and Probe database, and they both tell the same story. So the National Household Travel Survey 2017 version, the median car trip in the US was only 4 miles. So that gave us confidence that what we were getting from that trip distance histogram makes sense within the kind of national environment.
Great, thank you.
All right, so looking ahead, as Lane and Becca knows, we're always looking for the next challenge when it comes to data. First one really is to keep up with the frequent changes and enhancements that you guys are making to the platform. Second, and I'm looking forward to your presentation, Becca, is to look at ways to analyze COVID-19 impacts. And then finally, to expand the use of StreetLight beyond those corridor level projects to system level planning and hopefully traffic operation.